The Wall Street Journal telling of more high-profile Republicans who think the GOP should hold firm on not increasing the debt ceiling. Indiana Congressman Mike Pence and former Speaker Newt Gingrich are joining with former Minnesota Governor Tim Pawlenty and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in calling for spending cuts and not upping the debt ceiling past $14.3 trillion. Time to let the Willis watchdogs out. Leslie Marshall is a Fox News contributor in Los Angeles. Mercedes Colwin is a managing partner at Gordon and Rees and a Fox contributor. And Andy Levy is the ombudsman for Red Eye on the Fox News channel, but he's sitting in the host chair on tonight's program, and I believe all week.
Yep.
All right, Leslie, we're going to start with you.
Well, I got to tell you, this is interesting because only one of those three that you mentioned actually get to vote on this. So it's sort of like Congressman Pence is sort of, like, I'm standing aside from my party. Tea Party people keep writing those checks. And the other guys are like, we might run for president. Love us, send in your checks. But the bottom line is the GOP is going to vote for this and are in favor of this. The majority of them are.
Mercedes, this is just like, an incredible battle here. What's going to happen, do you think?
I think it's going to be inevitable. They have to, if you don't increase the debt ceiling, you're going to default on loans, and that means more and more money. I mean, I'm sure a lot of those default loans have those penalty provisions. If you don't pay it by a certain point, those are the types of issues. I think everyone's going to be practical and just swallow that terrible pill and say we're going to have to vote for that increase. And trillion, I can't even roll trillion out of my
I know. Andy, are we going to swallow that terrible pill?
I think probably, although I know Governor Pawlenty at least says that it's a false choice, that we don't have to raise the debt ceiling, that we have enough money in our tax stream right now to pay off the debts. But I do remember a wise man once said, raising America's debt is a sign of leadership failure. Leadership means the buck stops here.
Who was that?
That was Senator Barack Obama voting against raising the debt ceiling when George W. Bush was president. So either he was wrong then or he's wrong now. I want to know which one.
Easy to say then, that's for sure. It's a tough conundrum. All right, next story. Researchers are finding students aren't learning much in college and aren't being challenged enough. The report is based on a book from a New York University professor. It found 45% of students show no significant improvement in critical thinking, complex reasoning, and writing by the end of their sophomore year. So, Mercedes, is college a waste of time?
I think certainly the first 2 years, especially if you're in the liberal arts schools, I think a lot of it has to do, a lot of these professors, you're in these mammoth classes, those core classes, psychology, English, sometimes mammoth, 800 students in class, you're not going to learn much. I think it's really focusing on what your iPad and what's happening in your texting.
Isn't it just practice for later, like drinking beer and eating pizza, Leslie?
Well, I was going to say, I'm very upset, Jerry. I'm very upset that I'm not getting credit for the keg parties and frat parties that I attended my first 2 years of college. I was shocked today. I will get over it, but honestly, they do need to have more tests. I would agree on class size, some of those lecture halls with 150 and 200 students, because I know there was a lot of verbal discussion as to the topic, but, in a classroom, you need a test, and you need to have them submit reports so that they have to study and have to turn in some kind of homework.
Sorry. Okay. I know. Well, it was bad, those big classes. Andy, you remember that?
Yeah.
That was like yesterday for you.
You telling me the crossword puzzles in the back.
No, I actually thought one of the things they said in the study was that students spend 50% less time studying now than they did 2 decades ago.
Really?
It's not possible to spend 50% less time studying than I did 2 decades ago. So as far as I'm concerned, this whole study probably flawed. Here's the biggest problem, though. One of the authors of the book says students are able to navigate through the system well without any effort. To me, this is the real issue, because you need to learn how to navigate and work the system when it's hard later in life. And you're not getting that knowledge in college now because it's so easy to do. They've got to make it harder for you to game the system.
Isn't it more about on-the-job training, though, seriously? I mean, we graduated from college. I went to professional. I went to law school. You get out, and really, it's not until you start working in the real world you actually get the experience and practicality you need to do what your craft.
But a little step up in college wouldn't be a bad thing.
I also think part of the problem is college, like I guess they say youth, is wasted on the young. When you're college aged right now,
true,
that's when you're at the age that you think you know everything and you don't need to learn everything. When you're older, like does anything sound better now than saying, here's what you have to do for the next 4 years? You have to learn stuff. That sounds kind of cool.
Wouldn't that be great?
With your parents and the taxpayers paying for it. I mean, that's fantastic. But back then, you're like, I don't need to learn this.
Right. It's all, I guess it's all from your vantage point, how old you are. All right, this is a critical story. First, Brett Favre, and now Regis Philbin.
I don't want to alarm anybody, but I have to tell you this because it's going to happen, and the station needs to know, and Gilman needs to know, and we all need to know. But this will be my last year on this show.
Aww. The 79-year-old television legend has not specified a departure date, but ABC says they will look for a replacement to keep the show going. Andy, I love Regis.
Here's the thing, though. When you said first Brett Favre, now Regis Philbin, I got really nervous. And I completely looked away from the monitor because I didn't know what was going to be shown there. So please don't ever do that again.
Okay.
But,
well, only when you're here.
Okay. Look, Regis is a lovable guy. I think everybody agrees on that. I would like to see Ricky Gervais take his place.
Oh. Because he, is so calming in the morning.
That would be a show I would watch.
And maybe he would talk about you.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Mercedes?
Say it isn't so. I love Regis too, Jerry, but I think it's obviously he just wants to spend more time with his family and move on. He's happily married. And
I cannot imagine this guy retiring at all, Leslie. Come on, this guy is not going to retire. No way.
Well, I heard that his wife had something to do with this, and being a wife, I would imagine she has a lot of influence. It's going to be hard not to see him, but I have to admit, guys, have you seen Kelly Ripa's husband, who has been filling in for Regis? Sorry, Reg, you were great to watch, but definitely he's a bit better to look at. So I'm looking forward to some of the new, younger, hotter hosts, perhaps.
Well, there are lots of contenders there. I'm putting up our own Andy right here to, fill in host right there.
Yeah, I'm getting some experience this week. So
okay.
yeah.
Thanks, Leslie, Mercedes, and Andy. Appreciate your time.